This is Focus Saskatchewan with your host, Tom Vernon.
We're going to start with the NDP. In less than 2 months, the party will select a new leader between 4 contenders. Trent Weatherspoon, Ryan Miley, Aaron Weir and Cam Broughton are all crisscrossing the province, selling memberships to new people as well as trying to convince older members that they're the right person to lead the rebuild for their party. We're going to start with Cam Broughton. Cam was first elected in 2007 as an MLA from Saskatoon, and he was one of just 9 members re-elected this past election. So we're several months into this campaign now. This campaign, has it been a campaign of different ideas from different visions, or is it sort of similar visions and different way to unroll those ideas?
Well, the candidates, we are New Democrats, so of course there's going to be some overlap in the things that we believe and the things that we're talking about, because there is a certain vision for the province that New Democrats have, one of fairness, one of building a more generous society, one where everyone has the opportunity in society to reach their full potential. So there are similarities, but there are also differences. I think one clear difference that I've been talking about a lot is my clear plan for the party. I think while it's important and necessary to have the discussion about the future of Saskatchewan, that's definitely part of what we're doing now, this is also to choose the leader of the New Democratic Party in Saskatchewan. So an important question is who has the best and the most clear plan for what we need to do in the NDP to rebuild our strength.
So why are you the best choice?
Well, it's important to have the right plan for the party. I have a very strong focus on making membership matter, so people know why they're belonging to the NDP. There's a real importance in their involvement. I also have a strong focus on modernizing our policy process. I think it's a great way to listen to our members and to reach out to other Saskatchewan people. I have a clear plan on how to elect more women, also how to invite more people into the party, and also a clear plan on how to rebuild connections with rural Saskatchewan. So the plan for the party is hugely important. But it's not only about the plan, it's also about who's there to put the plan into action and to work with the team. And I think in that case, it's very important to have leadership that's proven. As a sitting MLA, I'm very honored to have the support of 3 fellow caucus members who I've worked with, who have seen me in action, I appreciate their support and the role that they will play in the years ahead. It's also important to have leadership that's principled, and I'm fully committed to the values of our party and the values of Saskatchewan people and having a stronger province for everyone.
How much work needs to go into rebuilding this party from where it sits right now to being that government in waiting to being the next government?
Well, we have a lot of work to do. We have 9 members in caucus, so that's an indication of where we're at compared to where we've been. So we know we've got a big job to do, but we know that progress has been made. I mean, the last legislative session, I think, was a good one for the opposition. We were bringing forward issues that Saskatchewan people cared about, and we were pressuring the government to react in a way, and we saw some positive movement, whether it was the asbestos registry, whether it was better health care for refugees, whatever the issue may be, we were doing a good job. And we need to do more of that, and we also have to be putting forward positive options for Saskatchewan people. And we need leadership that people can identify with and people can trust, and that's the type of leadership that I want to provide.
You guys have been all over the province. Is there one issue that you're hearing most common from people?
Well, it's true. This race is a marathon. It's been going on for a few months, and we're now into the last couple of months, and it's been a great race. What I hear from Saskatchewan people, we're focusing right now in the leadership race on NDP members and those who are likely to become NDP members, the people that are committed to the party and are committed to our values also. And what I hear from them is they want a leader who can rebuild this party into a dynamic political force once again. A force that appeals to a broad cross-section of Saskatchewan people. That's the goal that I have, that's the work that I want to do and that I've tried to do as a MLA over the last 5 years, and I'm encouraged by the response that we've been getting.
Next up, we have Aaron Weir. Now, Aaron has never served elected office, but he has been involved in the party for a number of years, and he has served in positions as an economist all over the world. So we're a couple months into the campaign now. Has this been a campaign of 4 different contenders with different ideas, or is this sort of everybody has similar ideas, just different ways of rolling this out?
Well, we all share many of the same core values and goals. All of us want to build a healthier, greener, and more equitable Saskatchewan. The question is how to get there, and that's where I think you do start to see some policy differences. I've put forward a very specific plan to collect a better return from our non-renewable resources. by closing loopholes in our potash and oil royalty structure, we can increase provincial revenues by about $1 billion a year, which would help to pay for the improvements to healthcare, education, housing, and childcare that we all support. The other candidates have talked more about a review of resource royalties, which might or might not improve revenue, and certainly provides our political opponents with a blank slate to say whatever they want about what our policies might entail.
Your economics background is obviously well stated. Do you feel that is your strength in your campaign?
Well, I certainly think it's an important strength. I worked in the Treasury Board Secretariat, the Department of Finance, and the Privy Council office in Ottawa. I've also worked as an economist in the trade union movement. The Sask Party has been very successful in putting forward a narrative about prosperity and economic management. I think the NDP needs to be able to challenge the Sask Party on those issues, and I think a background in economics is very helpful in that regard.
Is this about winning the next election, or do you think there needs to be a much longer-term view in this rebuild?
Well, one of the lessons we learned from the last federal election is that political breakthroughs are possible. I don't think anyone predicted the orange wave in Quebec, so we have to fight to win the next provincial election. Having said that, we also need to be prepared for the more likely scenario that the NDP may need to rebuild for more than one election in order to form a government.
So what do you think happened the last election that put this to where the NDP has just 9 seats?
Well, I think the last election results really reflect the years leading up to that election in which our former leader made the mistake of going after Brad Wall personally. That obviously didn't work, and although we have a very good team of leadership candidates, I don't think any of us will win a personal popularity contest against the Premier. I think where we can win is in the battle of ideas. We need to challenge the Sask Party's agenda and, more importantly, talk about what a new Democrat government would do differently.
I'll let you go on this one. You guys have crisscrossed the province. What is the number one issue you're hearing from people in our province?
Well, the big challenges facing our society are inequality and climate change. For Saskatchewan, the key to meeting those challenges is the management of our natural resources. The current government's economic strategy is to give away these resources, to have them extracted as quickly as possible. That's a bad thing for the environment, and it also drives inequality. Collecting a better return on these resources that, after all, belong to all the people of Saskatchewan would lead to more shared prosperity for everyone, and would also give us the funds to invest in energy conservation and the renewable power facilities that we need to put our province on a more sustainable path.
I just want to make sure, adjusting royalty rates or going through the loopholes, would that not endanger in further investment from companies, or do you feel that there would still be a good enough deal for these companies to develop here?
Well, if you look at the industry's own data, what it shows, for example, is that the oil and gas industry's revenues far exceed what it spends on exploration, development, operations, and royalties in Saskatchewan. So there's certainly room for the province to collect a better return while still leaving a healthy profit for companies. So I believe a much better deal is possible.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Ryan Miley is a family doctor that lives in the Riversdale neighborhood in Saskatoon. He previously ran for the NDP leadership in 2009, finishing second to Dwayne Lingenfelter. I've asked the other 3 candidates this, but I want to ask you as well. Is this an idea, a campaign of different ideas from 4 very different people, or is it similar themes, just different ways of rolling them out?
A bit of both is true. There certainly is a lot of agreement on core issues. I think what really distincts my way of presenting those issues and bringing in some new ones is around framing. Earlier this year, wrote a book called A Healthy Society, talking about how we can use human health as the goal of politics and use that as a way to inform how we then go about making policy decisions. So building on my work as a family doctor in rural Saskatchewan, up north in Mozambique, using what I've learned there and the ideas of the determinants of health, the things that make the biggest difference in people's health, income, education, employment, housing, nutrition, to direct how we make political decisions.
Okay, so how would that work? I mean, what sort of policy ideas would that stem out of?
I think the first thing that it would do is it would change the lens of evaluation of whether or not you're being successful. Because for the most part, what we look at now is whether or not the GDP is growing, certain economic indicators, which is very important, but we need to also be evaluating whether or not economic progress is actually converting into better health outcomes, better well-being for people. And so that might, for example, when you're looking at income and finances, require you to think about how equally are we managing to distribute that economic progress throughout society so that health outcomes are, so that we're achieving the best results we can.
This isn't your first kick at the can for leadership. You ran in 2009. How has this race been different than the one where Dwayne Lingenfelter eventually succeeded?
Well, Mr. Lingenfelter certainly is a big difference, having that former deputy premier, a big name like that, that really set the tone of the race from the beginning and perhaps even made it more of a polar set of decisions versus now for young, bright candidates. It's a different race. It's a more even race. And as I was reflecting earlier, social media has just changed so much. The websites that we're using, the Nation Builder, behind-the-scenes stuff to connect with people, as well as Twitter and Facebook, all of that, it's just so much more ubiquitous and is allowing us really to connect with, I think, a larger number of people than last time around.
You have gone through a nomination process as well. You ended up pulling out of that. What lessons did you learn from that and having to pull out to take into this leadership contest?
That was a pretty specific moment that it wasn't the right time for me to continue in that race. I did continue on being involved in other campaigns and involved in the party, working on the provincial council and a number of elections. But I actually think that sort of experience of going forward and then having to pull back was really positive, because it forced me to step back and say, is this something you really want to do and why? And writing the book, in fact, was a big part of processing just what are the ideas that I want to bring into this? What is the real motivation? What do I envision as the results of being successful in politics? And I think because of that, I'm probably far less susceptible now to the crests and troughs of public opinion or of the campaign race.